All right, man. It is official, like a referee with a whistle, man. Tszyu is the brand new 154 WBO champion. Let's talk about it. What up, YouTube? Big T, Heavy Bad Boxing TV, man. Get your goof ass in here. Hit that bag, hit that like button for your boy. That helps the channel. You know, I appreciate that love. Shout out my gang, man. D1 Merc 1ML21 Skinny JT Black Jesus. My guy Troy Jack, Keywan Rebel Life, Modern King, Letitia, YK World, my boy Tyrese Celestine. Big shout out to More and More Network, my guy Big Sean. And listen, Mark Wynn, had to make sure I did this one for you, man. Tszyu, my Aussie family out there. Now listen, Tszyu elevated, right? He was waiting in line. Jermell Charlo chose to turn left and going right to pick up that payday from Canelo Alvarez fight. Of course, Canelo Alvarez bringing Jermell Charlo up from 154 to try and get a knockout. He's 4 fights in a row, his longest knockout drought since 2008. He wanted to bring a little guy up here and see if he can get that little guy out, but that little guy had to have some skill, so he chose Jermell Charlo, undisputed versus undisputed. It didn't happen. For Charlo, made a lot of sense. It's Canelo Alvarez. It's a big payday. You pick up the payday, and, you know, more than likely you lose. I think I had to agree with Tim Bradley to an extent, and I don't, you know, man, it take a lot to watch Bradley talk. But I thought he was right. You know what I mean? They sold hope in this fight. Like I told you guys, my prediction in that fight, you know, I just didn't think it was, Jermell had to be perfect to beat Canelo Alvarez, and that just wasn't the case. Now, for Jermell Charlo, still has 3 belts left. He could easily make his return to 54 and see what's going on. But for Tszyu, the new WBO champion, he has the Brian Mendoza fight next. Now, Tszyu has looked spectacular in his last 2 outings, getting Tony Harrison out of there. The only other man to beat Jermell Charlo in beautiful fashion. And then he completely obliterates Ocampo in the first round. And now he has Brian Mendoza, who's coming off the biggest win of his career versus the towering Inferno and the Sebastian Fundora. This is a big fight, man. Shout out my Aussie family who be in here rocking with your boy Mark Wynn. I salute you. This is a big fight. This is a really, really good fight. I'm excited for this fight, especially for Tszyu, who has been waiting in the shadows, waiting his turn, and taking advantage of every opportunity, continuing to make himself look good at 54, waiting on his shot for Jermell Charlo. Unfortunately for him, Jermell chose to go a different way, but it doesn't mean that fight won't happen. Now, according to Jermell Charlo, he will be returning to 54. But it depends, right? Bud Crawford already came out and stated publicly now that he's no longer interested in the Charlo fight. But now that Charlo has fought Canelo Alvarez, has had a pay-per-view run, he might take a step back and look at it and say, hey, maybe this Charlo fight makes the most sense as far as a bigger bag. Maybe people would be interested to see how Charlo fares against a smaller Bud Crawford. And now, according to Canelo Alvarez, he would like to see those 2 guys fight now, meaning a Jermell Charlo and Terrence Crawford, before he would think about giving Crawford a shot at whatever's going on up at 68. He needs to fight Benavidez and stop bullshitting. But for Tszyu, you can't take, at 28 years old, you're the newly crowned WBO champion. There's no way you can take the 29-year-old, only 2 losses, and those came to who just recently, I feel like, I'm not going to say he got robbed, but I thought he did enough to win in a Jesus Ramos. That's who beat Brian Mendoza, and that was a while back. I think Brian Mendoza will look like a completely different fighter versus Ramos now, but coming off that loss, completely different. He's rallied 3 in a row, and again, a huge knockout win over Sebastian Fundora, whom a lot of people was riding high on, felt like he was a cheat code at 6'5", 6'6", with a crazy reach. I always felt like if somebody was able to chop that tree down, I didn't believe he would get up, and that's exactly what happened. Mendoza was able to do it. He packs a lot of dynamite. Tszyu packs a lot of dynamite. I can't see how this fight isn't fireworks. I don't believe either side's willing to back down. I do believe if anybody's going to be on the front foot, it'll be Tszyu, because I do believe Mendoza probably is the better boxer, meaning, well, I ain't going to say better boxer, but probably has the better footwork versus a Tszyu. But I do think Tszyu applies the pressure in that fight, and I think that's going to make the fight extremely, extremely interesting, because as he comes forward, he's going to still have to be very aware. He's going to have to be calculated on the front foot versus somebody like a Brian Mendoza. But congratulations to Tszyu, man. This will be his first title defense. You know, a lot of people would knock Tszyu for being elevated and not taking a scrap and by defeating the champion. But to go against somebody like the likes of a Brian Mendoza in your very first title defense, you can almost say like it's like he's fighting for a vacant belt right now. You know, I'm just saying, given that perspective, that's how good I believe Brian Mendoza is. And if he can get through Brian Mendoza, I think, you know, that says a lot about Tszyu. And, you know, coming off a win like that versus Brian Mendoza, he can start looking at the likes of a Jermell Charlo or Errol Spence Jr. or even a Bud Crawford, if Bud Crawford wants to go after the WBO scrap to try and set himself up to become undisputed versus Jermell Charlo down the line. Or they could just go straight into a Jermell Charlo fight. You know what I mean? I think that would make the most sense for Tszyu if he was to get past Brian Mendoza. But you guys let me know what you think in the comment section, man. That's all I got for y'all on this one. Big T.O. Heavy Bag. Talk to him, Roger.
Most motherfuckers don't know shit about boxing.